Hi, everyone. I picked a couple of problems from the warm-up that I wanted to show you because I anticipate them being a little challenging or it's been a little while. So the first one that I chose, and all the other answer keys are present, but the first one that I chose was on slide number 3, number 2. So it says graph this equation. This is an equation in standard form. Okay. And what we need to do with this is it's linear because it has an X and a Y, and we want to graph this. So 2 methods. The first was using zeros. And so if you remember, that looked like this. So what we would do is we would put an X and a Y, and then we would say, well, our zeros, one of our zeros is when X equals 0, and one of our zeros is where Y equals 0. And that means where it crosses the X axis and the Y axis. So I'm going to take this equation, and to find out what this Y-intercept is, I'm going to plug 0 in for X. So negative 0 plus 2Y equals negative 6. And I'm going to solve for the variable that's left, and that's the Y. Negative 0 is nothing. So we're left with 2y equals negative 6. And then we divide both sides by 2, and we get y equals negative 3. Okay, so that's that 0. And then if I do my other one, I plug 0 in for y this time. So negative x plus 2 times 0 equals negative 6. And I solve, that's nothing. Negative x equals negative 6. And this is really the same as saying negative 1x. And so we're going to divide both sides by negative 1, and we get x equals positive 6. Okay. The other method is I could rearrange this, and that's okay too. But I'm going to keep moving with this method because this is really the different piece. So you guys have a graph, but I don't. So I'm going to graph this equation, these 2 lines. So this is on the y-axis, and where y equals negative 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is on the x-axis, and where x equals 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can also get that by that's a coordinate and that's a coordinate, and those are the 2 points. Then you got your trusty straight edge, whatever straight. Then you connect them. You want to extend that line out, and there you go. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and that other one is the system of equations. Give me a sec to organize this. There we go. So this is our system of equations. So this one we have done a lot of practice of. It doesn't make it any easier, in my opinion. These tend to be pretty challenging. So this one's different because it's not both set to y, but one of them is set to y. Okay, so what that means is I can take all of this and I can plug that in for y. If you want to see more videos on this, you can look at our previous post right before break. Right before break, I did a bunch of videos on this, and they're on YouTube. Okay, so then I'm going to take this equation, and instead of writing y, I'm going to write all this because they're the same thing. So 5x plus 2. Now instead of y, I'm writing 4x minus 7. Again, my name is Heather. My name is Heather McDonald. At my past school, I was called Mrs. McDonald. Those are all different ways to name me. And so in this case, we could call this y, or we could call it 4x minus 7. They mean the same thing for this equation. Okay, I have to keep going, equals negative 1. And now I'm going to ignore these 2, and I'm just going to solve this one. Okay, my steps, I always have to do distribution if I have it. That's my first step. 2 times 4 is 8x. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Then I write the rest. If I can combine like terms on either side, I'm going to do that, and I can. And I get 13x minus 14 equals negative 1. The other thing is if I have variables on both sides, I get them on one side. I don't here, so I just leave it. And I'm going to start to undo. So I'm going to add 14 to both sides. We get 13x equals 13. I'm going to get x alone by undoing this multiplication and divide both sides by 13. And I get x equals 1. Okay. And I can use that to find what my y value is. So I could plug that into either of these. This one's just already rearranged to get y alone, so let's plug it in for that. So y equals 4x minus 7, and instead of x, I know that x equals 1. So y equals 4 times, 1 minus 7, and 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 minus 7 is going to be negative 3. My answer is a coordinate. It's the point where these two lines cross, right? And that's going to be the x value and the y value. All done.